Hey everyone, welcome to the spare room. Um, G'day. Yeah, I made 3 moderators because this channel seems to be getting bigger and the live stream seems to be getting more popular. It's probably not a bad idea. Someone put up a link the other day and it didn't get approved into the chat, so no one could see it. So if you notice that happened, well, makes it pretty easy to put it on, and I can't handle that. But there's 3 of you. I hope you don't mind. You're all Australian and you're all responsible adults anyway. So even some of the Americans are responsible adults. And no, thanks, guys. What's happening? Anyone got any fire problems? The fridge isn't around. Who else is down that way? Hey, Rustknox, g'day. Craig, John, who else is there? Tom, Sticks Hat Shop, welcome. Maddie Johnson, g'day. John McManara, g'day. Mike, see, I'm learning some of your names, even if your usernames don't even do sort of give you any hints. Mark Osborne, g'day. John McManara, you're not a misfit at all. We all make tools. Some of us are crazy enough to build engines. Mancave Metals, g'day. Kama Batler, g'day. Yeah, you're in the news. See, it's creator influence. That's what it is. You're an influencer. That's what you are, Cam. Not much we can do about that except just go along with it. Anyway, hello. And welcome to another Wednesday night live stream. I don't know if I've got much to really say or do, but we'll get through. We'll see how we go. Not going to set a time limit on this. If it happens, everyone seems to think an hour is not too long. I don't know about that. Usually I just dribble because after about 10 minutes I got nothing left to say. Yeah, drunk's good. Welcome. Absolutely rude not to be drunk. What do we got? Some new tools today. John Creasy went to the trouble of picking up a oiler from Malay. I think some of you have probably already seen that installed. I only got one. There was a genuine Myford one. And that's great. But then I had to go and buy another one. So I went straight to Myford and bought a genuine one again. So they match. That come today. Pretty quick turnaround. Myford spares counter. This one's still got the sticker on it. They seem a nice little oiler. They got a junk gauze in the top, a filter, and a decent lid that swivels around. And this is a bit sharp, but it all seems to work with a needle and a spring and a sight glass. No good on an engine because they haven't got a non-return valve in it, and it's a bit big anyway. So that'll fit my lathe. The other one's screwed straight in, so I might put them on. May not get the Myford stickers on them, but I might put them on and get them going pretty quick. It's a long overdue project, and thanks for the encouragement, John, but we've finally got 2 of those. See, John, this is abuse of power. That's what that is. Yes, John McManara put one up, and I don't immediately see a way to allow prevent it. I don't know what the story is there. If you go back to the link, it usually says this link is suppressed or something like that. Maybe you don't have power to do that anyway. Anyway, you can keep the nasties out anyway, and it makes you feel important. Don't click on John's link. JB, g'day. So Cam showed this in his video other week, one of these that he bought, and I got the same one, a bit of fishing around. Found the same one with the 2 backs and the box. Thanks, Cam, for the heads up. I've got one, but it's only 1/2 inch travel, which is a bit of a pain in the... There's a pain in the backside because you've got to... It's only good for some things. This seems a pretty nice little indicator. Fires up. It's got... It doesn't seem to have a piece that comes off the top here like my other one that gets sticky and oily, and hopefully it doesn't come apart. It's got battery in there, I guess, and there's probably a USB or something in this one. Serial port or some sort of cable. Unlikely to use that. But it's inch and metric, so to enough decimal points to get me into trouble. It's got a 0 function, so it seems to work. Nice positive buttons. Not going to put a link up either, but if you search for it, they're pretty good, and it was an Australian seller. And they weren't very expensive. They're like $35. So I got one of those. My idea is to make a depth gauge attachment for this so that I can measure the depth of cut easily without messing around with a depth mic and winding it in and out frantically and then reading it back to front and all those sort of things that happen with depth mics. So Tom Lipton showed something like that reasonably recently, like within the last 3 years on his channel. So that's about a week's work to go back and find it. Robin Renzetti also showed one on Instagram in the last 6 months, and I have had another look at that. But it'll be a fairly simple tool to try and see how nicely I can get it finished. And that's my idea with that. Timeout time shouldn't be an issue, John. I had to think about that. It doesn't have timeout time because I left it on this afternoon and it was still on when I opened the box. But that to answer your question. But it shouldn't be an issue because this is always, in the tool that I'm going to make, it's always going to be set back to 0 anyway. So you write down the measurement and take a cut and write down the next one. If you're not writing down measurements and leaving your measurement on your digital instrument, you're doomed for failure anyway. Greg, good day. If you're using it as a poor man's DRO, it is. You're right. Not going to happen. We have some DRO progress on the mill, and I think that's going to happen reasonably soon. We're talking about that, but we'll see how we go with that bit at a time. I also picked up this little vise. Adam Carmichael was looking for a metric sign bar, and I happen to have one that I picked up somewhere. off eBay or something years ago. Now I have, my gauge blocks are all imperial, so a metric sine bar is really, it's good, but it's a pain. And so I've never really used it more than once or twice. Yeah, it's a 100mm metric sine bar, and it'd be nice for working things out if I had a 4-inch one, but, or even a 3-inch one for the size of my machine. Now, some guy named Stefan Gottswinter on Gottswinter on YouTube. I don't know if any of you follow him, but about 3 years ago, he made a little sine base for one of these vices. It's a pretty good build video, and he built it before the ultra precision stage, the phase that he's in now. So it's not like ground and hardened and tempered to within an inch of its life. It's really quite a good build. So I thought maybe that might be a useful thing for this. I swapped this anyway for the metric sine bar. It come from Aussie, and after the last 2 or 3 episodes of whinging about Aussie, this really isn't badly finished. It's got a few burrs on it. Could do with a stone up and a bit of a tidy up. I'm not sure about these 2 holes in the end, because one's nearly off the side and one isn't. So something doesn't quite line up as well as it could. Not sure what that is, but it's got 2 tapped holes in here, and I'm not sure they line up. Gosh, I'll remove you all if you're not going to be adults. It's easy. But fair enough. It is, yeah. It's needlessly complicated, like everything else on the internet. I'm pleased you're making it so. Anyway, that's what I want to do with this vice. It's probably all right. It's got some stupid little features, I guess, for just from looking at it for a start. First one is that this piece here doesn't come out through the bottom, through the top, even if you turn it around 90 degrees. So you can't take the jaw off from the top, which probably isn't a big deal, but if you drop that in there, it means that you've got to actually take the means you've got to take the vise off its mounting to get this piece out and to put the screw back in. Another really stupid thing I noticed, and this doesn't impress me a whole lot. Yes, I did, Max. Thanks for that. Really appreciate that comment. Is that the screw sticks up past the bottom of the vise. So not so sure about that, and whether we might need to shorten it or what we can do about that. That really seems like a pretty stupid idea. Anyway, anyone got any thoughts on that? It's got a tapped hole here, here, and here, which is probably pretty good if you wanted to bolt it on something. And it's got a step in here, which is a really good idea for, basically, it's got a built-in parallel, which is a pretty cool idea. Hi, John Edwards. So this looks like a pretty good vise, except for this here could probably do with some work or some adjustment or something. I have to think about that. Now, I'm making a lot of fairly small parts. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I made these little brackets this weekend. They're not huge. If we have a look here, this one and this one. And for that sort of work, a vise like this is pretty helpful, really. You can put in the big vise that way up or that way up or that way up or that way up, and everything's square, and you don't have to worry about setting it up and getting it fiddling around with the part that's only tiny. Every time you want to adjust it or machine a different side. Yes, if you loosen the screw, you can use a different hole. That's correct. So it might take a bit of getting used to, but it seems strange that sticks up past there. Most of the ones I've ever seen have a hole tapped in the nut just in the end with a pin through, and they don't stick any further through than that. So anyway, we got a vise. Craig, I think you're right. About 1 millimeter from dropping the nut. That's exactly right. I have a bigger one, a 65 millimeter one that goes on my mill most of the time. And I'd like one on the shaper too at some point, but that hasn't happened yet. Anyway. Some progress on this. We've got a push rod on here, which actually goes backwards and forwards, which is amazing. Thanks, John. We've adjusted the cam, and I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or not. The first original cam that I made, 3D printed, is about what the drawings say, but it's only got about 100 thou, something like that, lift on the push rod, and about that much again because the rocker's square or central. So there's no mechanical advantage on the rocker. So it's only got about 100 thou and a 9/16 valve, which, thinking about it last night, is probably plenty. It's a fair bit of air, and anything faster is going to make the thing rev, and I really don't want that. So this might go back on, but this one here is a bit smaller diameter, and that gives us about 150 thou, something like that. So we're undecided yet. Max, which engines still work if the dimensions were doubled? Which engine are we talking about? John Creasy, as soon as anyone's awake or at home or not away for the weekend or less busy or anything else, I'm going to set this up in a mill and bore it. That's the next job. So Max, if you're talking about this engine, you're more than welcome to double it up. Go for it. I'm in this so far that I can't back out, and that's the only reason I'm still working on it. No, it's not like that. It's a good build so far, but it's pretty stocky. It's a pretty big engine. John Edwards, have you decided on Spark or hot tube? I've decided on Spark. I'll put this bracket on here for the little Spark. Basically the contact wiper for the trembler coil. There's a couple of reasons I decided on spark ignition rather than hot tube. One is that hot tube ignition engines aren't real good outside because of the wind and various other features, and they like lots of cooling. And petrol engines by their nature aren't particularly good inside, so we kind of got a stalemate there. The other reason is that with spark, you can see where the timing hits by taking the spark plug out and having a look. With hot tube, you really can't ever tell. Basically, it's just engine performance that'll notify you of changes. So, although I love hot tube, there are reasons it's not going to work. So, we're going for spark. John, really good question. I'm going to bore this and then make the piston to fit within limits. We've only got so much on the end of this piston casting. This should go to about 1 5/16. It'll be a fraction smaller than that, I think. And we're going to bore this until we're sort of too nervous to go any further, and then machine the piston down to fit it. That's the theory. Mike, I don't think that there's going to be a problem with timing for any size difference. This is 3/4 scale model of the original drawings, so it's scaled down a bit, and the original was, pretty chunky. And I've converted the cam, just scaled the cam down in CAD, and I've 3D printed a couple to see how it looks. And just looking at it and looking at valve diagrams and lift diagrams on the end of the crankshaft, it all seems to work how it should, and I think it'll work within 10-15 degrees either way anyway. But I don't see why cam timing shouldn't be a problem. Timing shouldn't be a problem. Max hot tube is basically a hot tube instead of a spark plug with a chimney on it and a flame, and the timing is varied by moving the flame up and down the hot tube to give you advanced and retarded ignition in the hot part of the tube. It looks as fiddly as it probably is. Rings will be cast iron. I don't know how many. Probably finer rings are better than thicker rings, I think. I might scale down the drawing. They won't have much gap on them, and I'll make some rings for it, whatever size they are. Hot tube, pretty cool, but fiddly to start and fiddly to run, and a bit susceptible to outside breezes. So not really a particularly easy thing to do. But originally this was designed with hot tube, and it's quite a nice looking engine with the hot tube parts on it. And I've made the provision for it in the castings, but spark and a buzz coil will be easy. So that's progress on that. Next job really is to face the front and to bore it, going off this part and this part, which are actually should be parallel. I wanted to put this on here and check the flywheel run out and stuff, but it seems like these two surfaces will be, just as a triple check, will be nice and parallel to the crank, or perpendicular to the crank. So if we set this up on that surface and that surface and bore this, it should be at 90 degrees to the crank. So that's the theory. We will see. Hey, Peter Doddle. Good to see you. So there we go. But from 10-page article in a book, this has come a long way. I put up I think the third from last video in the Kenny series this week, because a new video for this went up on Patreon this week as well. So we're only about 2 more videos away from starting this build on YouTube, and we'll have some more in-depth look at what that all is. I hope you follow along. The Kenny videos don't get a lot of views because it's so long since I built that engine that people sort of, yeah, it's old news. Hopefully people watch this when it comes up on YouTube, but it's only probably a month away for the first video. And I think the videos are pretty good. I really like them. I can actually sit down and watch them again, which I can't say much about any of my other videos. What else come in mail? Got these this week from a guy who tends to ask me if I want things like this when they come up. There's a couple of nice minty Mammoth catalogues. I don't know about the year. They've still got telex number on the back, so that might date them a bit. But there's some pretty cool stuff in here. Hey, Paddy. Not properly dressed. John, the ignition contact wheel hasn't happened yet. I'm still looking for a bit of fibre or some sort of a tough nut or something to make the parts for that. But we'll get the camshaft in, proper camshaft in first, and then we'll start thinking about that. It's early days. So they're pretty cool, whether anyone's interested in them. But Mammoth gear, this is the, don't know which is probably the more modern catalogue. I think this is probably a, probably an earlier one, but there's not as much in here. If anyone's got a Mammoth oil can they want to get rid of that looks like that, let me know. So they were pretty cool. Yeah, shirt and tie at least. I don't really expect that. I expect you to be filthy dirty and just come in from the workshop, or still in the workshop actually, from last night. Toy of the year 1975, probably. Should still be toy of the year. They're pretty cool. The other thing I got, and if you're on Facebook, check this guy out, and you should really be following this gentleman. This is Jim Hendricks, Hendricks. If you're on Instagram, it's Jim and Alfie. Jim makes and collects and has a museum. Probably more woodworking tools than actual woodworking. Hi JB. But he said a calendar was really nice. That's Alfie, by the way. Lots of really nice unplugged style woodworking. He made this Galileo style square for a charity event last year. Hey Chris. So really nice to get that. Of course, this one's engraved Holt's Apple, London. Really nice tools. Archimedes screw drill. Archimedes screw drill. Lots of pretty nice things in there. And of course, he probably knows how to sharpen a plane too. But Jim's a great guy. He has some awesome projects. He's always messing around with something, restoring or building or making new parts. And he's well worth a look. So shout out to Jim. Go and get his calendar too, because it's a nice calendar. I guess people still use calendars nowadays. I hang it up. I'm not sure I'm going to look at it, but I look at the pictures. I don't tend to write things on them very often. Hey Kevin. Check out Kevin's channel. A big shout out to Machine NZ, who's starting a minute model petrol engine. And now I've said it, he's going to have to finish it, which I really is awesome. No pressure, but it looks like he's got a lot more information than I had. Max's shop calendar, I think, yeah. Go and fill out this new piece that says that I don't get political on this channel, but there's a new regulation on YouTube as of today, I think, that says that you've got to say whether your channel's actually kid-friendly or not. Mine's certainly not. This isn't kid-friendly. All you guys with no shirts on aren't kid-friendly. But you go and tick it before you put your girly calendar up, because they might get upset. And of course, there's the obligatory Mr. Pete video in the middle of all this for when you get sick of it. Machine NZ's little bar stock engine looks pretty good. I sort of haven't had a close look, and I was going to go find some plans and download them and have a bit of a look too. But there's plenty of other projects here, as you've already seen. The Church of the Easily Offended, it says the man who puts on a shirt and tie before he comes to live stream. Doesn't matter a lot, and it doesn't affect me in the slightest, and I don't think it affects any of you guys. But go in and make sure you click the box that says not suitable for children, because yeah, reasons. Anyway. Phil, good day. Hi, stranger. This Phil's project guy used to make really good videos, project videos. He's dropped off the radar a bit. We're not going to put him on the spot and ask him for an explanation, but if he made a video about it, Rude, in the next little while, it'll be fantastic. No pressure. Mr. P's little vice come up pretty good. It's a nice job. No pressure, Phil. No pressure. Hope you're doing okay. But yeah, it's probably the Mounties. It's probably the legalized weed is more likely what it is, I would think. But sorry, Phil. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, speaking of pattern making, some awesome pattern makers on here. Old Iron Shops, go and check out his pattern making videos. That's awesome. No, I know, Phil. Sorry, I'm stirring you. Hi, Dan. But we have missed you, absolutely. Think of you nearly every day. Probably somewhere on the bench is your hammer. No idea where. Oh, here it is. It's on the lathe. Phil and Pierre made these awesome hammers, and a few other people as well. It's all dinged up. Phil, I hope you don't mind, but this is a beautiful tool. Really nice. And it gets used just about every day. Very pleased to have one. Go and check out Phil's channel. Dennis Nolan. Check out Dennis Nolan too. Cutting Tool Designer is in the house. Dennis has some pretty good videos of most YouTube gathering events. And he's restoring a lathe, and we need an update on that fairly soon too, but no pressure again. See this guy over here? You probably didn't, but there's a cockroach crawling up the wall, so probably I'm going to do something about that. There he is. Fixed. I didn't get him. He's going to crawl up the wall again. I could find some spray, but it's in the other room. Don't know where he come from. He's dead. Death and destruction of animal cruelty. Dennis is up early. It's good to see you, Dennis. Probably we need Joe Party here to come and save him. He's not an animal cruelty person. But I don't like cockroaches in the workshop. It's only a little one by Queensland standards, but it'll do. Where are we? There's a big pattern making project that's just started here. I haven't progressed much beyond cutting out some pieces of plywood to sort of see how it's going to look and the general size and what I'm in for. I've done some CAD drawings. As time goes on, we might show a bit of that on live stream, but it's for a vice for production in America, and I'm just making the pattern, so it's sort of a commission job, and I'm pretty pleased to have it. So I do have permission from the guy who's in charge of the project to actually show some updates, so we might do that too. So look out for videos on that. Cane toads don't come inside, Max. They're all just jumping around outside here. You can't walk up the yard without treading on one. And you don't want to tread on a cane toad without shoes on. That's one of those things. They're not much fun underfoot. I hope you're keeping okay, Dennis, anyway. I just wanted to say that. I hope you're doing okay and feeling a bit better than you were. This stupid phone is going to go flat again. And something in that toolbox up there is rocking and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to have to investigate that. Anyway, we plug the phone in. We'll see how that lasts. So the pattern making projects is pattern making vice after the fashion of Emmett or Oliver, with a few modifications and a bit more of a robust outlook, I guess. It's going to be pretty chunky and it's going to be nicely engineered, I hope. It's going to have ball races and probably some gears and things like that.